trillion, million, billion, trillions of orbiting snowballs. Orbiting snowballs. Orbiting... A flat fact. A flat fact.
The realm. Do you know what the realm is? A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
At the third stroke, it will be 9, 50, and 10 seconds. At the third stroke, it will be 10, 27, and 10 seconds.
Time, a story that we told each other over and over and over again until we forgot that it's a lie. What does a gnome know? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome back to my subscribers. This video will not be brought to you by a magnet nor by the year 2020. I am going to reset time. To be more precise, I'm going to reset the historical timeline. This is chapter 1 of Gods and Monsters, and this is just the beginning of the apocalypse. The beginning of the lifting of the veil. I'm going to reveal something that you already know, but you don't know that you know. You're not supposed to think about it. You're not supposed to remember. Some 30 plus years ago, I discovered a little something in the astronomical code for time. I saw it, and it was odd. It wasn't until the early 1990s that I found out what this little something in the time code was. And this something was in direct contradiction to what I was taught at school, what we all were taught, and what is still continually taught. Even knowing this, I could still not find an explanation as to why. This has been the proverbial splinter in my mind for decades, and I've travelled many research paths looking for the rabbit. I have an idea as to why now. And now, in my opinion, time in the mind of man has turned into a bunch of hoodoo guru, don't look here human, religious evil gods and monsters, boogeyman under the bed, gobbledygook. But in chapter 1, I'm not going to start with that something in the code for time. While the understanding is not complicated, it is a little complex, and I've made numerous attempts already to explain this anomalous discovery. I'm going to start the historical timeline reset with the maps of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, all the cartographic maps of the world, from the oldest maps to the newest maps. Some 5 years ago, I began my journey to becoming a sailor, and I began learning celestial navigation. In the modern era, sailors use technology, chart plotters, autopilots ran by GPS chips, and it takes just a lightning strike to the mast or some other random thing like your batteries going flat, and all your navigation devices could be fried and stop working. Knowing how to manually navigate by the sky is just as important today as it was for the early ancient sailors. Navigation is a matter of life and death. So firstly, I'm going to repeat the story of the realm, the story of the maps, and then expose it. Let's start with this map. This is the public domain political map of the world 2019. Latitudes are marked on maps as degrees, and there are 3 degrees shown on most maps, which you may know of or have heard of. In the centre, we have the equator at the 0 degree latitude. 0 degrees, remember this. Then we have the Tropic of Cancer at the 23.5 degree latitude north, and the Tropic of Capricorn at the 23.5 degrees latitude south. The Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer are so named because of the positions of the Sun in these constellations at the summer and winter solstices respectively. I'm in Australia, which lies south of the equator. At December, it is the summer solstice in Australia and the winter solstice to countries north of the equator. It is the same opposite with the vernal and autumn equinoxes. So I won't make you convert this in your mind. I will use the months of the year as the calendars of the West present to us, so the following will be as clear as possible to everyone, especially if English is not your first language. In the days of once upon a time, the olden people, the ancients, described and determined these latitudes. Firstly, I have 5 of the earliest maps to present. Cantino Planisphere, dated 1502. I've created a zoom box in the corner on this and the following maps, so it will be a little easier to see the old markings. I wish to make a point, so I'll be showing the markings on each of the 5 maps. The equator is marked as equinoctial. The tropic latitude north marked Tropiaeus CR, and the tropic latitude south marked Circulus Capricorni. The Ruche map, dated 1570. Let's follow the circle of the equator line. The equator line is marked Circulus Equinoctialis. The southern tropic is marked Circulus Capricorni. And the northern tropic is marked Circulus Canceri. The Texeria, dated 1573. The equator marked equinoctial. The northern tropic latitude, Circulus Canceri, and the southern tropic latitude, Circulus Capricorni. Stay with me, just 2 more. The Orbis Typus Universalis, dated circa 1500s. The equator marked equinoctialis. The northern tropic, Circulus Canceri. The southern tropic, Circulus Capricorni. And our last map, and probably the most well-known of all early maps, the Ortelius World Map 1570. The equator is marked Circulus Equinoctialis. The northern tropic is marked Tropicus Canceri, and the southern tropic, Circulus Capricorn. As we can see on the maps from the 1500s up until today, we have the equator marked and the Circulus Canceri and the Circulus Capricorni. Circulus means circle, as in the circle of the equator, the circle of Cancer and the circle of Capricorn. The constellation of Cancer is represented as the crab, and the constellation of Capricorn is represented as the goat. The word tropic on the maps brings to our mind tropical paradises, palm trees, white beaches, and balmy weather. The Greek word tropicus means belonging to a turn of the sun at solstice. In Latin, the word sounds the same, just spelled a little different. Tropicus, and means turning point. Turning point. As per the maps of the world and the story we are told, at solar noon on the March equinox, the sun will be directly overhead at the 0 degree equator latitude and have equal hours of light and dark. Then the sun travels north to the 23.5 degree latitude, the Tropic of Cancer, and will be directly overhead at this latitude on the June solstice, and the sun will be in the constellation Cancer. Then the sun turns, Tropicus, and travels back to the September equinox, where the sun will be again directly overhead at the 0 degree equator latitude. Then the sun travels south to the 23.5 degree latitude, the Tropic of Capricorn, and will be directly overhead at solar noon on December solstice, and the sun will be in the constellation of Capricorn the Goat. Then the sun turns back again and travels back to the March equinox at the 0 degree equator latitude. The movement of the sun from the equator to the tropic turning point and back occurs 4 times a year, every year, year after year. It is a flat fact. Now let's look at the degree markings on the maps as they refer to time, and let us look where the paintings of old give us a big clue. See where they are all pointing? Up, ladies and gentlemen. Up. The sky. The sky above your head is not lying to you. Let's look at those degree markings as the ancestors of the once upon a time who named the constellations determined the degrees. The older ones of the old ways used a circulus, a 360-degree flat circle to divide the sky and make measurements. We will find the equinox line and the solstice line making a cross within the circle. This 360-degree circle is then divided up into equal parts of 30 degrees, and each of the degree arcs, they group the starlights into what is named constellations, which they anthropomorphize into animals, people, or things. I personally think it is a very clever way to pass down information. Here I have highlighted the Tropic of Capricorn the Goat and the Tropic of Cancer the Crab in their solstice positions. In the equinox positions we have Aries and Libra. First point of Aries, also known as the cusp of Aries. The first point of Aries considered prime meridian. The first point of Aries stated to be important today in the fields of astronomy and navigation. The first point of Libra is located exactly 180 degrees from Aries. Aries is the sheep, the ram, the lamb. Behold the Lamb of God. Agnus Dei, Latin for the Lamb of God. The realm is replete with paintings and carvings of the Agnus Dei, the Lamb of God. Let's cue the epic music. Those maps from the 1500s that I showed you earlier could not have been used by the sailors at that time, nor anyone else navigating, nor could anyone today use any of those maps, nor the 2019 political map of the world. The dates on the cartographic maps of the world are all wrong, therefore fake. The Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer were in the age of Aries, and the age of Aries began more than 4,000 years ago. So where are the maps? Oh, but wait, there's more. Now let us move forward in the sky. let us move forward in time, moving 30 degrees, moving approximately 2,160 years to solar noon when the Sun entered the Piscean constellation at the March equinox. The age of Pisces, the fish constellation. We see Pisces in the position of the March equinox. Exactly 180 degrees opposite, we have the constellation Virgo the Virgin at the September equinox. And in the solstice positions, we have at December the Sagittarius constellation, and at June, Gemini, the Twins constellation. The age of Pisces began more than 2,000 years ago. So where are the maps for the last 2,000 years showing the Tropic of Sagittarius and the Tropic of Gemini? Where is it recorded in any documents, encyclopedias, or astronomical observations pre-1900? Let's see if some maps and documentation mysteriously start appearing with these markings after this video. Still, we are not up to the current time. Let's move forward in the sky again. Let us move another 2,000 years forward. Sometime soon at solar noon at the March equinox, the Sun will be in the constellation Aquarius of the Water Bearer, and every eye will see it. At the June solstice 2020, the Sun was in the constellation Taurus. Taurus is already lined up. As of writing, the December solstice 2020 has not happened. Perhaps like me, you could pay attention to what constellation and exactly what degree the Sun is. How to do this simply will be explained in a later chapter. So what have we learned so far? The Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer were in the age of Aries, which began some 4,000 years ago. All the cartographic maps in existence use this timeline. The latest Google Earth for Windows also shows this 4,000-year-old timeline. The age of Pisces began some 2,000 years ago, and there are no cartographic maps showing the Tropic of Sagittarius and the Tropic of Gemini in existence as of writing. I'm sure someone will find a way to justify the fact that there are no maps with the correct timeline. But as I said earlier in this chapter, navigation on the oceans is a matter of life and death. The maps need to be correct and show the right time. These ancestors of once upon a time knew what the sky was doing. This evidence, which will be another apocalyptic reveal in a later chapter, contradicts the historical narrative, just like the maps. But no spoilers now.
27 and 10 seconds.